Welcome back to the Superheroes Everyday Podcast. I'm Danny Horn, and I'm here with Trevor Bolliger. Hey, Trevor.
Hey, what's going on?
I'll tell you what's going on. We are here for Act 2 of Marvel's Eternals. If it's been a minute since you listened to Act 1, this is how that went. It is 5000 BC in Mesopotamia, which is a good place for it.
I just find his character to be so dreadfully dull. I think it might be one of the most dull characters in the MCU, and Jeremy Renner is in the MCU.
You know, you say that you want MCU movies to be more different from each other, and then they do this, and you realize, oh, it was better the regular way.
You know what this is? This is space robot succession. They are all very wealthy, they're all very out of touch, and they just don't know how to actually interact with average humans.
Kanye, this is not okay. This is not acceptable. I don't care that you're a huge cosmic robot with lights on your face. You did not make the sun. And all right, here we are talking about Act 2 of this incredible movie. You know, I haven't really talked much so far actually on the podcast about, like, I have been using this 3-act structure, but I don't usually talk that much about like what it actually means. And Eternals is actually a really good example of a film that uses that structure really well, because there's two huge turning points in the movie, really at exactly the right, like at 1/3 and 1/3 and 1/3, where we find out at both points that the story is completely different than what we thought it was. They're big plot points that change the story and that totally drive the action for the next act. So the movie feels really scattered because it's way too many characters and it's way too many time periods, and also it's idiotic. But every act has a really clear direction. So now we've had the first plot point with Arishem explaining to Sersi what's actually going on. And then Sersi has this really enormous choice, which is, do I tell everybody? And how do we figure out what to do? And everything that happens from now on in Act 2 is a direct result of that choice.
Yeah, I mean, the turning point is life will never be the same. And so Sersi's had 7,000 years of very, very boring
right, yeah.
life. And so lucky for her, these last few days on Earth are going to not be the same as those first billion.
Yeah, it's her first exciting day in a really long time.
Yeah.
And the reason why Sersi is a good character is because it does not even occur to her to hide this. If she was going to hide this from people, then she would have been this storyline speed bump where, like, we have to wait for her to make the stupid choice of, like, not telling anybody for a while. She just goes straight and just tells everybody what's going on. And the next thing we hear is Kingo saying, "So you're saying we're basically fancy robots?" Which is a really funny line, and it is actually perfect for this weird moment in this weird story.
I mean, they should have put that in the trailer. I think that would have sold more tickets. But yeah, this second act I like to call the existential crisis act, because this, for the next 45 minutes, they're all just coming to grips with what the hell have I been doing?
This cascading series of existential crises that they're about to have. Yeah. Arishem has just told us that he's been making the same stupid mistakes over and over and over again for millions of years, for the entire span of the universe, where he creates deviants to kill predators for no reason, because those predators would have never mind. And then he has to go and create Eternals to kill the deviants. It has always gone this exactly same stupid way. That's why Thena's exploding with Mad Weary, because she's so sick of this terrible cycle. Sersi has now just created a new branch for this story. Every other time they've done this, it's gone that stupid way. And this is the special time, because now Sersi is making a decision that makes this iteration of the process go differently. So they talk over what this all means, and what they want, what the movie wants, is for this to feel like a moral choice. Is it okay for us to sacrifice all of Earth to create this celestial and give birth to it? The group kind of splits vaguely into these two camps of, like, does this mean we're bad guys and we're killing people? But like Kingo is saying, like, no, we're the good guys because we're spreading life throughout the universe. The problem is, just as a moral choice, it's just really silly, because it's destroying a planet of real people to help theoretical future people. And then the Celestials are just going to kill those people to help even more hypothetical people. And the bottom line is, like, either you think people are worthwhile or you don't. But nobody ever talks sense to Celestials. Like, Kanye does not want to hear this from us.
Yeah, this movie actually kind of poses some interesting philosophical questions around moral relativity versus absolutism. Do you actually kill one or stand back and allow the destruction of a planet, or allow millions to die for billions to be born. But the thing is, we don't want these people to be making the decision. Like,
right? Yeah, it's like you are exactly not the people.
Anybody other than these like rich, out of touch robot people.
Yeah, and Karun gets this great little moment where he's the one human in the room, and he kind of calls that out. He's like, "I'm human. I'm a little biased, but yeah, I think we have to try." Kingo says, you should go home and deal with yourself. And he's like, and do what? Watch TV? When I could be with the Earth's original superheroes as they try to save the world? And it makes the moment work. Because of them, because there's a real relationship between an Eternal and a human. And to the extent that this terrible story works, it is working right now because of Karun and Kingo.
Yeah, Karun is he's the heart of the movie.
He's standing in for all the people. Yeah.
If he wasn't in this scene, then like the movie would have been over.
Now I gotta go find Druig. So we are in a jungle type rainforest town.
The little crawl on the bottom of the screen says the Amazon.
Yeah.
And may I remind everybody that the Amazon is the longest river on the planet.
Yes, here we are. Everybody is super chill seeing these people walk in, and Druig possesses a guy to say hello to Sprite. He's so creepy. He's like, hey, so come on in. And he brings them into this bare cafeteria space, which I don't understand, but it's super like Jonestown, Jim Jones creepy for me. But Druig is not happy because they've just given him a lot of bad news. And yet, he still thinks that he's better than people. He says a little mean thing to Karun, where he says, like, you're kind, my friend. You'll be responsible for your own extinction one day, don't you think? And Karun is so beautiful. And he says, I think we must learn from our mistakes and do better, sir. You must not give up hope, which is the sweetest possible thing to say. And then Drew possesses him and makes him throw his camera at the wall. So he's pretty fucking smug for a fancy robot that doesn't remember 99% of its existence.
It's upsetting, and it just really just proves that it should have been a Kingo and Karun standalone buddy comedy.
Seriously. How is it possible that these chumps still feel like they're superior to humans? I don't get that. So they all have a fight, and now we have to, and basically the end of that scene is now we just have to stick around in this place for a while longer so we can have some more character moments and then fight some more deviants. Now it's nighttime. I don't even know if I want to talk about any of these scenes.
I mean, it's the existential crisis party. Like everybody gets a go at it.
Yeah.
So it just kind of goes around the room, and it kind of shows like who's really stuck up on what, and like what are they most frustrated by? Like, oh, is it because you're a robot, or is it because you were lied to your whole career? Yeah. And again, there's a lot of odd like redundancy and duplication in this movie. And this is, one of those frustrating scenes that
where it's like Gilgamesh and Athena again saying to each other, like, oh, I want to protect you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tragically, there's a cute little Sersi and Dane moment where she's talking to him over her phone, and he's saying funny things with his cute little accent. And he says, like, well, what about King Midas? Like, was that you? And it's like, oh my God, Kit Harington is still being so cute, even over the phone. And then that's it. And then he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's funny that he's been presented with like, hey, here's the true like origin of the universe. And here's here's where the Earth came from. Here's where intelligent life came from and all of that. And he's just still hung up on like giraffes and King Midas. And
yeah, he's still making jokes.
No, I think he's having a mental breakdown. He's just in his apartment having a mentee bee, just wandering around. I call it the existential crisis act because they're all just really, they've been faced with a unconceivable truth, which is an unconceivable truth that every human faces, which is that we have to work hard for somebody else's benefit for like the bare necessities in life.
Yeah.
And so these rich people just can't even fathom that, like, no, somebody was taking advantage of them.
That is a very good point.
I joke, but it's also like there is some tenderness to this moment, and like it does show some legitimate compassion from character to character. And so like it's overdue because we're almost an hour in, but like, okay, I'm starting to warm up to some of these characters, except for Sprite. Again, never Sprite.
Yeah. Well, so Sersi and Icarus have a nice moment. I mean, they're trying. And he says, like, I'm not powerful enough to protect you from Arishem. And Sersi says, I'm not afraid. This violent cycle has to end. And then they really get to it, like the big question where she says, why did you leave? And Icarus says, Sersi, I've missed you. I didn't want to leave. There's something and then he's whisked away by a flying monkey. which has to be one of the all-time history's greatest male relationship saves. Sorry, honey, I was about to tell you my big secret and how I really feel, but now I've been picked up by this flying monkey and I gotta fight some deviants with my laser eyes. I'll text you. Fantastic. Never done before. So Icarus is carried off, and finally we have another action sequence where a bunch of deviants show up, and the deviants are super scary right now. They're like Venom, where like they've got creepy tentacles and like fluid flesh and stuff.
So right when this action sequence starts, Karun is recording, we need action sequences, which is like exactly what the audience is thinking at
Yes,
that time.
exactly. Yeah.
Because it's been far too long of them just moping around and being kind of sad.
But unfortunately, it's kind of dark, which makes me wonder if that's like a cost-saving move. Like if the action sequence is a lot easier if you don't have to see the deviants that clearly. Thena's eyes go fuzzy and she goes all mad weary. And so now she really is like just a storyline speed bump. She's just making things take longer. Druig gets a moment to put on a tank top and do some like tricky jumps just to establish that he's male and in a Marvel movie, and he got a nutritionist as well for a minute.
Yeah, this scene is really kind of stretching the limits of like the B team, the junior varsity league.
Yeah. There's a similar kind of like tight shirt, big arms moment for Icarus where I appreciate the effort on that.
Mm-hmm.
It really goes on for a really long while, and I don't even really feel like talking about it that much, but it kind of ends. There's one nice moment where it grabs Sersi and drags her underwater, and then she somehow like uses her power like way bigger and bolder than she's ever been able to before, where she turns a deviant into a tree, which is really cool looking, and I really enjoy it. And then that's a really interesting end for that whole fight sequence.
Yeah, every day is Arbor Day when you're Sersi.
Except that is not the end of this goddamn deviant fight sequence, because Gilgamesh is still fighting one. And then Thena is there. Oh my god, more of this. And like, she's still a speed bump. Like, we've already seen her being possessed and unhappy, and now I just want her to kill something. And she's just standing there and she's watching Gilgamesh. And so the deviant starts draining Gilgamesh's essence. And Thena does nothing to stop it. And it digests Gilgamesh and then becomes, I guess, Crow. So now the deviant gets to become kind of a person-looking kind of thing. And now he gets a sad monologue, just like every other goddamn character in this goddamn movie. Where now he has his own little thing of like, so many planets, so much life destroyed. Ereshkigal used us and left us to die with each emergence. I will kill you all for what you have done for my kind. You are not saviors, Eternals. You are murderers. God, just one more bad-tempered person who's not having any fun in this whole cycle.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love Bill Skarsgård, especially as a villain, like he should play villains exclusively for the rest of his career. But like this character makes no fucking sense because like we know that he can absorb their memories. Like he literally just said it, and we know that he's mad at Ereshkigal, but rather than like try to prevent the emergence, which he knows is happening.
Right, he just gets mad at the Eternals.
Yeah, so there's a version of this movie where he teams up with the Eternals and they, in unison defeat Ereshkigal and prevent the emergence.
Yeah.
And then battle each other. But no,
and then he brings Kit Harington along.
Which, I mean, pro, more Kit Harington in the movie, but con, don't put that cute man in danger.
You know what occurs to me is actually there are so many, as we're going through this, we are finding so many different, like, better movies. There is like a multiverse of better movies that this movie could have been if they had only asked us. Why do they not ask, Trevor? Why do they do it?
I mean, my email address is right there. Just shoot me a message.
Right? Yeah, seriously.
I think my final note on the deviants is like, maybe if you don't want a bad rap, don't call yourself, like, get a marketing department. Come up with something that's a little bit more, friendly.
Yeah, that would have been helpful. Now Gilgamesh is dead, which means that Thena is going to be even more useless. And so everybody has to gather around and do a quick funeral before we can all move on. Once again, Karun brings the human culture by having some words to say while they burn the dude. The Eternals really just have very little to offer, so the idea that they're responsible for human culture is just clearly wrong because they don't even have a culture of their own. They don't even have a funeral, which, like, Neanderthals had funerals, y'all. The Druid says, apropos of very little, I thought about taking over the minds of every human on this planet. And Sersi says, why didn't you? And the answer is because it's just an incredibly stupid idea. But his answer is because without their flaws, they wouldn't be human, which is basically the opposite of his personality and his goals. But once again, like the idea that Eternals are superior to humans and that they know how to run the world better than we do. I don't know if I'm going to keep every single time during this episode that I've said, how is it still possible to hold that opinion? But I might, because it bothers me every goddamn time. Like, at best, y'all, you are guests in this house, and at worst, you are parasites who are uninvited, and you are refusing to leave. So we're going to need Phastos. Finally, and Druig says, good luck, because he gave up on humans a long time ago. Hiroshima. My feeling is this is the worst scene in the film. We see the wreckage after the nuclear bomb has gone off in Hiroshima. Everything is black and dead and burned, except for fucking Phastos, who's kneeling in the devastation and weeping. And he has little like 40s glasses on, which he does not need. And it's just so patronizing. And Ajak is there trying to comfort him. And Phastos is like, I did this. If my technology didn't help them advance, because this is all about you. And then he says, these people, they're not worth saving. And it's just, fuck you. You're willing to take credit for everything. But now all of a sudden it's something that you don't like. And now it's the human's fault. But worse than that, the thing that makes this the worst scene, just the most tone-deaf scene, you're in Hiroshima immediately after the blast. You are kneeling on the ashes of 100,000 dead Japanese people. And you're saying that they are not worth saving. Bad look. That is a bad look, Phastos. That is not okay.
Yeah, they are tourists just having a great time, and they're just, it's a shame that it's, another 60 years until Instagram is created, because then like his fake sadness could be confined to an Instagram post instead of actually like parading around the location. But this scene is pretty depressing. It's pretty tone deaf. And it's completely irrelevant. It does nothing, because this scene is like forgotten in the next scene, like seconds later.
That is because one of the worst scenes in the film is immediately followed by one of the best scenes in the film, because Phastos is gay and has a hot husband and a kid. And here we are in present day Chicago, and here they are playing on the lawn with bikes and footballs. And Icarus and Sersi show up, and they find that Phastos has done the best of any of them. He is the one who actually like made this work, because here he is with his hot gay husband man and a super cute kid.
I mean, in the span of about 3 minutes, I went from like completely forgetting that Phastos was in this movie to like hating him entirely to like rooting for him. Like he's the only character that matters now.
Yes, immediately.
And we're 90 minutes into this movie, and it finally has some weight to it, because I mean, Karun's there and you're rooting for Karun.
Yeah.
But, like Jack. Now there's Jack in this movie, and now you have a reason for them to all succeed, because you want Jack and his two dads to just have their happy life in Chicago and nothing bad to happen to them.
And the nice thing is that they don't just leave it as like he's a kid, but they immediately give him funny lines, which makes him like a worthwhile kid. So he like runs up and he's like, Dad, that's Superman. He's pointing at Icarus. He's like, that's Superman. I saw him on TV. He was in London. He was fighting a monster, shooting laser beams out of his eyes. He had a cape on. And Icarus says, I don't wear a cape. And Jack goes, oh, I'm sorry. Which is so cute. He's so cute and funny. And so it's hooray, Phastos is funny, and he's gay, and he has a kid, and he is winning.
I think the 1-2 punch of Kingo and Karun, and then Phastos and his family, just like that works. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Now there's something to actually sink our teeth into, and it's a shame that
it's this movie, right?
Yeah, but this is actually the point where like, okay, I'm in. Like, it has faults, but like, I actually am emotionally invested in this movie now, and I'll have that for forever.
Yeah, and it's more than just, even for me at least, it's more than just like this movie and how this movie is going, but like this is the first time in the MCU that they've actually got a for real gay character who's out and doing stuff. The MCU has kind of, not surprisingly, not been great with this so far, because for one thing, they're doing like, mainstream blockbusters, but also mainstream blockbusters that they're trying to sell in Russia and China. So they have not been super open with the queer folks. And also just as far as like who's available, like this is a franchise that's been around since 1961. with a ton of legacy characters. So most of the stars of these movies were created in the 60s to mid 70s. There's not like a lot of room for gay characters. They've started, Marvel has been for the last, couple decades, like creating some gay characters and retconning some. So Iceman from the X-Men is gay. He came out in 2015. So I'm hoping like when they bring the X-Men in, they do something with him. And then there's America Chavez, who's in the Doctor Strange movie, and Wiccan. And there are some subtle ones that have come up over the years, which I'm not that impressed by. Like there's Valkyrie in the Thor movies, who apparently is gay, and Loki mentions once that he's potentially open to guys.
If a character's sexuality is something that you learn about on a podcast or in an interview, then like, and not in the movie itself, then it's irrelevant, that it doesn't actually matter.
Like Mobius in the Loki show, Owen Wilson outside of the show has said that Mobius is gay and in love with Loki, but not mentioned on screen.
Well, I mean, it's Loki, so
everyone's in love
we're
with
all
Loki,
in love
right?
with Loki.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then in Black Panther, there's Io and Anika, who for like 30 seconds at the end of Wakanda Forever kind of smile at each other. And then I read about it in an article later on that like, oh, those are lesbians. So like that's how it's been in the MCU. But Phastos he's the first time that they actually make a big deal about a queer character in the MCU. And it's really nice. They do a whole sequence where we see their happy home life, where they're just being good dads. His husband is played by a gay actor, Hus Slyman. And this is presented, like you said, like this is now presented as the thing that saved him and made him love humans. And he brings it up actually like all of the time, a little bit too much, like keeps bringing it up as his main motivation for everything that he does. So it's a shame that this happens in a movie that nobody really likes. So that there isn't a lot of opportunity, I think, to turn him into a bigger character, which I would have liked. Because he's Paperboy. He's really fun. He's very funny. And it's, for once, this like amazing gay representation moment. Anyway.
Yeah. And I love that it's done in just like a very like, they're in suburban Chicago. It's just like, it's a house. They don't make like a big weird thing about it. It's just, this is their life together. And it's beautiful. And anybody would be lucky to have a life this happy together.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't want to get into, we don't need to talk about all the politics of Disney right now, but it's pretty clear that like, they're a business and they need to sell tickets. And, we are fortunate to live in a world that's actually diverse. It's not just a bunch of Russian trolls writing angry IMDb comments. Like, no, there's a lot of different people on this planet, and a lot of different people happen to buy movie tickets. And so it's the stories that we want. And it's also the stories that, are going to fill movie seat tickets. So,
so they got like, it's just a super cute sequence. And there's nice music, and there's a whole goodbye scene where he gets to be like nice to the kid, and there's an on-screen kiss, which is great. Like they just really take it seriously, and they're just committing to it. Then he leaves, and now we're on the terrible black ship, and now it's just going to be Eternals bullshit. All right, they find their black monolith ship, and there is Makari, who none of it, the woman who is kind of deaf but who can hear anyway. Nobody's seen her for centuries. She's been waiting in that ship to go back to Olympia because she's bored. And I think like the idea is, I think they don't really say this, that she's so fast that everything else just seems slow to her, which could be interesting, I think, in a different movie with a lot fewer characters. But introducing her like this, an hour and a half into it, like the length of a movie into the movie. And we've just gotten to know Phastos a lot better. And her main character trait is that she's bored. This is not helping us in this movie right now. We do not need this.
No, and there's some weird thing about like some emerald tablet that she wanted and now she has. And I
don't pay attention to things that Druig says, so I don't know what that was about.
No, and you live a better life for it.
Phastos has an idea though, which is we have infinite cosmic energy regenerating us, and he creates these bracelets that shut down the regeneration process. So they can store up extra cosmic energy, and they can share it and form a unimind. And then that will give them the power that they need to be able to stop the emergence. And then they just squabble about it, and there's a lot of tension. Icarus says that Sersi should decide, and fucking Sprite is like, no, Icarus, you're the strongest. You should be making the decision. Which is like, you're the hot white man. Why aren't you in charge? She's like again, it's a good thing about the movie that the movie actually resists that the obvious thing to do in line with all of fiction up until this point is, yeah, the hot white man who has the most power should be the one in charge. And the movie actually just completely shuts that down and says, no, that's not actually true. But fuck Sprite. And then we find out why Icarus is such a goddamn problem. We have a flashback back to South Dakota 6 days ago. Icarus is talking to Ajax, and it turns out he already knew the real truth. That's why he left Sersi, like a couple thousand years ago, whenever it was, because he didn't want to, he would have ended up telling her, and he doesn't want to tell her and watch her suffer.
I mean, this movie is like very progressive in a lot of ways, but there's still a woman that gets beat until she's unconscious. And there's the scene where Richard Madden knows best for his girlfriend. So he lies to her.
That is true.
So, yeah. We're not all the way there. We're most of the way there, but not all the way.
Ajax wants to tell everybody the truth because she has decided that she likes people and she wants to stop the emergence.
Well, what happened is she watched Avengers Endgame and decided that humans are pretty cool.
Yeah.
And honestly, like Avengers Endgame, 10 out of 10, perfect movie, no notes. So I get it.
Yeah, she's been watching the MCU. That's Icarus's problem. He didn't go to any Marvel movies.
Oh, he's been stuck watching all of the DCU.
You're right. Oh my God, Icarus totally has been watching Man of Steel. He's a Snyder bro.
Icarus is
a Snyder bro. That explains so much about this movie, actually. Oh damn! And we know that he's a Snyder bro because he's psychotic. He makes a plan. He brings Ajax to some snowy place with scary deviants and pushes her into a pit of frozen deviants so that they can kill her. And this deviant wolf murders her and sucks the energy out of her body. And it's kind of fun.
Is this actually a movie about the climate disaster? Because these demons came out of the snow and,
because of the warming. Yeah.
Yeah. But, there's a lot of messages that this movie is trying to say. But the one that, honestly, I believed before the movie, and I'm going to hold on until the day I die, is that rich people suck. And
yes,
if I love the movie for that.
Should not be in charge of anything. So Icarus talks to Sersi, trying to argue with her, and he says, I won't mind leaving this world. I only wish that when we do, I would be able to remember you. I'm in love with you, Sersi, and I'm grateful for the life I've lived with you. Which is such a psychopath scene. Like, even if he hadn't killed Ajax, he's okay with everybody else's life stopping. He just wants his own to continue. And he doesn't see the connection between those things. He really is a Snyder bro. She should not have feelings for him. I know that he's Richard Madden and he's very sexy, but she needs to respect herself more than this. And she has a cuter boyfriend at home, so I don't even know what that's about. Icarus tells Sersi, you know what? I wanted to leave you in peace without knowing about the emergence. He says, I wish Ajax hadn't chosen you. And then he shoots Fastus and says, I've let this go on long enough. And Sersi says, oh my God, he lied to us. He already knew. They have another little moral conversation about, like, do you think it was easy to know the truth? Keep on lying to you? Honestly, this is like what happens when you find out that your uncle voted for Trump.
I love a good heel turn moment. Like that's in most movies where it's like, oh, it's a good guy who's actually the villain the whole time. Like,
yeah,
usually that's one of the best scenes. But again, just the weird sequencing and like repetitive nature of this movie is like, we already learned all of this with his conversations and actions with Ajax like 5 minutes ago. So we know he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it takes them a while to ramp up to it. Yeah.
Like this scene where he's revealing it in front of the Eternals, like they might be surprised, but as an audience, like we don't give a shit because we just learned it. It's not surprising.
Yeah, they could have done that sequencing the other way around where like they figure it out and then we see the flashback that explains it. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's also just very morose. Like they're all just really sad about it.
Yeah. But this is a great plot twist. And I have to say, like, I did not see this coming when I watched it the first time. And it does make the story more complex and interesting than we thought it was. It does mean that Icarus is a stone cold psychopath because there is no rational moral argument for allowing the Celestial to destroy Earth. He's basically just saying we should fulfill our mission like obedient robots just because we've been told to. And then he says, you won't succeed against me. I will kill every one of you if I have to. So he's willing even to kill the only people that he supposedly cares about in order to destroy the world. So if the film wants us to feel like these are two sides and there's some kind of interesting moral debate that we could have here, that is not the case. Icarus and Sprite run off together, and as far as I'm concerned, they could stay where they are. So, with newly discovered political differences tearing this family apart and ruining Thanksgiving dinner, that means this is the end of Act 2 of Eternals. And as usual, with superhero movies, Act 3 is the endless battle sequence. Here's what's coming up. Can we have a sequel? Is there anything interesting that we can do in a sequel? And are we popular enough to be in the next Avengers team up? These are the major questions that you need to resolve at the end of this movie.
I mean, I do love to see a glowing orb in the movie. It's always fun to have a glowing orb.
Just taking all of Thena out would have killed. That would have been like a half hour. That would have been an extra half hour that we could have spent talking to our families.
But they are killing it.
Yeah, but who cares? It's a fucking Celestial.
Perhaps the most ridiculous thing that Kingo says is, even with my help, we're no match. It's Icarus. Like, he's never heard of the magical power of friendship and believing in yourself.
So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much, Trevor.
Hey, thank you. And I can't wait to discuss more politics with you next time.
All right. I will see you soon. See you back here for Act 3 of Eternals on the Superheroes Everyday Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Very nice, sir.
Are you mental? Hide!
We need action sequences.